Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, so you have a UK pension, but you're living in Israel. You've probably wondered, who actually gets to tax my money? Today, we're going to untangle all of that by going straight to the source, the official UK-Israel double taxation treaty. You know, this is such a common dilemma for expats. You earned your pension in the UK, but now you're living in Israel. So who do you pay? The UK? Israel? Or, heaven forbid, both? Well, thankfully, there's a key legal treaty designed for one reason, to stop the nightmare scenario of being taxed twice on the exact same income. All right, let's get into it. We'll start with why these treaties even exist, then we'll look at the special rules for government pensions, uncover a really critical legal twist, and wrap it all up with a simple guide so you can see how it all fits together. So first things first, why do we even need all these complicated rules? Well, think of this treaty as a rule book for a game played between two different tax authorities. It's there for a really simple reason, to make sure only one country gets to tax your pension. It's all about playing a fair game. The whole goal here is to avoid that financial headache of being taxed twice. And the way the treaty does this is by assigning what are called taxing rights for different kinds of income. And for the thousands of people who move between the UK and Israel, you better believe pensions are a huge focus of this agreement. So how does the treaty actually decide who gets the tax? Well, it starts with a really basic question. Is your pension a government pension? The rules for this are laid out in a very specific section, Article 10. So what exactly counts as governmental? Well, this usually covers pensions for jobs like the civil service, the military, or a local authority. And the treaty is very clear on this, it does not apply to services you might have provided for a government-owned business that was basically just run for profit. Now, the default rule here in Article 10 is pretty powerful. It says that a UK government pension that's paid to someone living in Israel is generally exempt from Israeli tax. So the right to tax it stays with the UK. But, and honestly, this is a huge but, there's a really critical condition attached to it. This single condition is like a switch that can completely flip the outcome, especially for anyone who's been living in Israel for a long time. And there it is, that powerful tax exemption. It just vanishes if you are considered ordinarily resident in Israel, which, of course, brings us to our next big question. What on earth does ordinarily resident actually mean? You'd think the treaty would define a term that's so important, right? But it doesn't. And this is where we get a really fascinating legal twist that actually forces us to look outside the treaty itself. And this is a perfect example of how international treaties have to work with local laws. The treaty itself says that for any terms it doesn't define, you have to look at the law in the country that's asking the question. In this case, UK courts have decided ordinarily resident means something much more permanent than just being a tax resident. It's about having a habitual, settled life in one place year after year. So once you're considered ordinarily resident in Israel, that special rule in Article 10 just doesn't apply to you anymore. You lose the exemption. But the treaty is designed like a safety net. If you fall through a specific rule, you land in a more general catch-all rule that covers all the other kinds of pensions. So, what is that safety net? Well, when Article 10 is off the table, the treaty points us to the general rule in Article 11, and this article covers just about every other kind of pension you can think of. And the key word here is just massive. It's only. This is a huge shift. For all private pensions, and for those government pensions that lost their Article 10 exemption, the right to tax becomes exclusive to your country of residence, period. So this really shows you the fundamental difference. Article 10's exemption is conditional. It all depends on your residency status. But Article 11? It's absolute. It gives an exclusive, non-negotiable right to tax to your country of residence. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay. I know that was a lot of legal jargon, so let's just put it all together into a simple roadmap that you can actually use to figure out the logic for your own pension. This little flowchart lays out the whole logic perfectly. Let's walk it through. First, is it a government pension? If no, it's dead simple. Taxable only in Israel. That's Article 11. If it's a yes, you go to the next question. Are you ordinarily resident in Israel? If you're not, you get that lovely Israeli tax exemption from Article 10. But if you are, well, you lose that exemption and you fall right back into Article 11, which means your pension is taxable, you guessed it, only in Israel. So there you have it, a clear framework to figure out if your pension is actually being taxed in the right place. And what's the ultimate takeaway here? Well, for UK government pensions, everything hangs on two words the treaty doesn't even define: ordinarily resident. It's just a perfect reminder that in the world of international tax, it's not just about where you live, but how the law actually defines your life there.